Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the voice of Detroit. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can register for our online course that we teach on Fridays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Also, if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, you can email me through our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also email me at info, I-N-F-O, at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, info, I-N-F-O, at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, and YouTube at Michael Imhotep, I-M-H-O-T-E-P. Okay, we have Jamon Jordan here in the studio, historian and educator. How you doing today, Jamon?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, Mike.
All right, we're going to get to the discussion in a few minutes here, dealing with the movie Detroit, about the killing at the Algiers Motel of 3 African-American teenagers by white racist police officers. This was during the Detroit Rebellion. But first, we're going to go to the phone lines, and we're going to go to line 1. Al, thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show. How you doing?
In terms of the Colin Kaepernick, the whole situation, I don't think people realize that. I mean, we can do the boycotts. I'm with you on that, but always, when you go to football games, I mean, the majority of people in the stadium are other people. They're not really black people. I mean, if you can't get the players to get a part of it, I think that's really where the power is going to be. But like you said about C-Row, the $1 million slave, you got a lot of brothers who are kind of like dissolved from my political issues. Like they don't never really want to, they never really want to say anything because they don't want to, miss the money. And really, like you always say, you live in a capitalist society, so everything's driven by money. I mean, think about in terms of with the mayoral election, they talk about how much money Duggan is wrong.
Right.
They talk about other candidates. They haven't raised anything. I think the biggest problem we got is we don't really have wealth like that. So I'm with Colin Kaepernick doing what he did, and the reason why I'm upset with the owners is because he's not like a player who went out there and beat up on somebody.
Right.
Dog fight.
Right.
He ain't selling drugs. All he want to do is bring awareness of what's happening to people because they're not getting treated fairly.
Right.
These owners, me personally, I understand why people say boycott, but keep in mind that the majority of people in them stands are Caucasian people.
Right.
I had a couple friends that played for Michigan. When I go to the games, man, I ain't see brothers. If they wasn't a family member of a teammate, the majority of people at them games is white people. So,
right. Okay.
I want to love to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, see, my approach is totally different, so it don't have nothing to do with the people in the stands. But thanks for calling, Al. Thanks for calling. Okay, so what I'm going to lay out, if you watch the broadcast I did a couple of days ago, it's on my Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and it's on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep on YouTube. We have 32,000 followers on YouTube. Watch that video. That gives a prelude to what I'm talking about. Because what I'm talking about, it doesn't have to do with the people in the stand, and the players don't even have to boycott. The approach I'm taking on this is totally different. Okay, if you look at what happened when colorchange.org helped to lead the economic boycott of advertisers against Bill O'Reilly, show the O'Reilly factor, 80 advertisers withdrew economic support of Bill O'Reilly's show, and Fox ended up firing Bill O'Reilly. And none of the anchors, none of the air personalities at Fox protested. None of them went on strike. None of that. So what I'm going to lay out is totally different. Okay? Let's go to Ron, line 2. Hey, Ron, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you for taking my call. Myself personally, I am not supportive of Colin Kaepernick, and I don't really see when he declared that he didn't vote. I really don't want to hear from him. If you don't vote, I think that's destructive to the black community. And we never got anything accomplished for not standing up or putting a knee down for the national anthem. But we did have our forefathers bleed and die for the right to vote. And any black person that's going to talk about they didn't vote could potentially be a destructive influence to our people. He can go somewhere and get up and do a bridge. I don't care about him, and the NFL is not required to hire him. So I don't want to hear from him or anybody else that doesn't vote. You can go somewhere and sit down.
Thanks for calling. keep in mind, I don't think Muhammad Ali voted either when he protested, when he set out when he was barred from the NFL from boxing for 3.5 years and stripped of his boxing title because the Nation of Islam didn't vote.
That's right. He was a member of the Nation of Islam, so he didn't vote.
See, I don't think Muhammad Ali voted. So just let's be careful about saying, now I thought it was wrong for Kaepernick not to vote, and it showed that if he's talking about criminal justice reform, and you don't vote for a president, and the president nominates an attorney general, that's the chief law enforcement officer that helps sets the tone of law enforcement. And if you actually study under President Obama, you have more investigations into patterns and practices of police departments than any other previous administration. Okay, there's a lot that can come from the federal level. Okay, so I think it was a problem that he didn't vote, but he does not understand how federal politics plays into the issues he's protesting against. But at the same time, just because you don't vote does not mean that you can't be effective. He just hasn't connected the dots. Keep in mind, Muhammad Ali was very powerful and people praise Ali, but Ali didn't vote either because the Nation of Islam did not vote.
And a lot of activists feel that participating in the electoral process is they consider the whole process to be tainted and corrupt and problematic for African Americans. So you got some black people who believe that voting is the way, and you have another group of African Americans who believe that voting is participating in a wicked process. So I understand both positions.
Well, voting is a tool. When you build a house, I worked on a construction site before. Hammer is a popular tool, but it's not the only tool that we use, but it's one of the tools in the toolboxes. So voting is a very popular tool. And even Malcolm X, when Malcolm officially separated from the Nation of Islam, March 8th, 1964, Malcolm helped fight for the Civil Rights Act of 64 that was signed into law July 2nd, 1964. But June 28th, 1964, when he announced the organization of when he announced the formation of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. When you actually read the speech that he gave, he talked about the need for voter registration and getting involved in voting, because he understood that you had to have a plan to bring about the changes that you want, and voting was a tool to use. It's not the only solution, but it's part of that. Malcolm understood that. Okay, and so what happens? What's important for people to understand is that Malcolm's philosophy was constantly evolving.
That's true.
And towards the end of both of their lives, Malcolm's ideology and Dr. King's ideologies were converging. This is something important for people to understand.
That is true.
Read the book Martin Malcolm in America: A Dream or a Nightmare by James H. Cone. Yeah, Martin Malcolm in America: A Dream or a Nightmare by James H. Cone, because that book thoroughly breaks it down. Okay, all right. So, you and I, we were on Steve Hood's show, my man Steve Hood. Wake Up with Steve Hood.
That's right.
The morning show here on 9:10 AM, the Superstation, 2 Thursdays ago. And we dealt with the Detroit 1967 rebellion.
Yes.
We talked about the 1943 Detroit race riot.
That's right.
We talked about conditions that led up to the rebellion taking place July 23rd, 1967. Rampant housing discrimination, unequal education, discrimination when it came to job discrimination, discrimination when it came to business services rendered, rampant police brutality going back decades, even before stress was created in 1971.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
And this is going to explode. You went to the premiere of at the Fox Theater, the premiere of the movie Detroit about the Algiers Motel killing.
That's right.
Okay, and you made some comments on Facebook about this. Tell us about your feelings about the film.
So let's. I want to always make it clear, differentiate my feelings about the film and my feelings about all the stuff before the film.
Okay, go ahead.
So of course there's some issues that I have that happened before the film, and part of that is the premiere. So the world premiere, the red carpet affair, people taking pictures and models are outside
taking selfies and taking pictures
selfies
with the stars of the movie,
the stars of the film. And of course, this film is about you're about to be entering a event of horror.
Yes.
And this is not a horror movie. This is a movie based on a true life events. So there were 3 teenagers, 3 black teenagers who were murdered by racist police at the Algiers Motel on the night of July 25th into the early morning of the July 26th.
Right.
And so this is what's actually happening. So I couldn't find myself comfortable with the level of Hollywoodiness of
the glitz and glamour.
The glitz and glamour and the skinning and grinning with these stars and the director and all of that.
Right.
When I'm about to see a movie where 3 black teenagers have just been murdered in the city of Detroit.
And not only that, the police get off also.
That's right, and so it's a horror on 2 levels: the murder of the police. I mean, the murder by the police of those 3 African American teenagers, the torture of all the survivors in the Algiers Motel annex building that day, and then on the flip side of that, all of the people who were charged, and 2 of whom admitted what they did. In killing these African American teenagers, all are acquitted. None of them serve a day in prison.
Now, when you said 2 admitted, you're talking about 2 police officers.
Yeah, 2 police officers admitted that they shot Fred Temple and Aubrey Pollard.
Okay.
Yeah, no one admits to killing Carl Cooper, although we know
Right.
they did that too. But 2 officers, Ronald August and Robert Pale, admit that they did shoot Fred Temple and Ronald August in the Algiers Motel. And they also admit
Fred Temple and Aubrey Pollard.
That's right.
They shot them.
Yeah, 18 and 19-year-old Fred Temple. Fred Temple is 18, and Aubrey Pollard is 19 years old.
Right. Okay. So, and you have 3 white officers who were charged.
That's right.
Right. Okay. All 3 are going to be found not guilty.
That's right.
Okay.
And you also have 1 African American security guard, Melvin Dismukes. So now I want to get into the film.
Tell us about that.
So,
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
as I'm going to merge from the pre-show at the world premiere at the Fox Theater into the film. So at the pre-show, the director was brought out by none other than the Ivy League professor, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. And we'll talk about that whole scenario.
Because he was on MSNBC this morning talking about how great the film was and all this, and I'm sitting there watching this. I said, all right. So I'm gonna ask Jamon about this tonight.
So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But so after the director is brought out, Catherine Bigelow, who is the director of The Hurt Locker, as well as Zero Dark 30, so 2 war films that won Oscar awards. She is the director of the film, and so she comes out, and then she brings out real living people who are part of this story.
Right.
So she starts out with Julie Heisel. Julie Heisel was one of the white teenagers who was there. 2 white female teenagers in the Algiers that day, and part of the brutality that the African American young men and boys are given by the police, part of that brutality that they suffer is because of the presence of these 2 white girls who are there, who the white racist police officers have a problem with these 2 white girls being in the presence of 7 African American young men. So one of them was at the premiere, Julie Heisel, and she came out. And then after they brought her out, they brought out Melvin Dismukes.
Yes.
Now, Melvin Dismukes is the African-American security guard who comes into the Algiers at the same time as the police. When the police raid the Algiers, he joins them. And in the film, you could arguably say he's the main character. John Boyega plays the part of Melvin Dismukes in the film.
Right.
And you could argue that he's the main character. And, of course, that's a problem, and we'll talk about that problem as we talk about the film. And then lastly, Cleveland Reed, Larry Reed, one of the founding members of the Dynamics, who of course that was what their name was in '64 when they're founded, but in 2 years later their name will be changed to the Dramatics.
Right.
And the real Larry Reed is brought out onto the stage. So he's there as well. He was one of the people who was tortured inside of the Algiers Motel.
Then there were 2 members of the Dramatics.
That's right. Roderick Davis was the other member.
In
the film, they only depict 1. So the other is his part is removed from the story.
Now that's interesting that they would totally remove him from it. This is one of the problems I have with movies. This is why I think documentaries are better to tell these stories, so you can deal with the historical accuracy. What's interesting is that last Sunday on TV1 they did did an unsung on the Dramatics.
That's right.
And they talked about the two members of the Dramatics,
Yes.
Roger Davis and Larry Reed,
That's right.
who were in the Algiers Motel and were tortured by the white police officers, etc. And Larry Reed is going to end up leaving the Dramatics.
That's right.
Before they make it big.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Now, talk about Melvin Dismukes, because when they brought him out on stage, you yelled out something there when you were in the audience. What did you say?
I said, when they brought him, everybody that got brought out, they clapped for.
Right.
So when Catherine Bigelow came out, they clapped for her.
Mm-hmm.
When Julie Heiselbrock came out, they clapped for her. When Larry Reed was brought out, they clapped for him. And when Melvin Dismukes came out, they clapped for him. And I said, hey, why are y'all clapping? He helped them kill he's the security guard that helped them kill Fred Temple, Aubrey Pollard, and Carl Cooper.
Right.
And so the people who were in earshot of me, they stopped clapping.
Right.
And former Councilwoman Joanne Watson said, that's right, that's right.
Right. Who has a show here on Saturday mornings.
That's right.
I think it's 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Listen to her show as well. Queen Mother Joanne Moore.
That's right.
Joanne Watson. Queen Mother Joanne Watson. Now, he was involved. Now, according to two witnesses inside the Algiers Motel, Melvin Dismukes, who was a security guard at a nearby grocery store, as you said on Steve Hood's show, he was involved in beating some of the people involved.
That's right.
Talk about that, please.
So Michael Lee Clark, who's in the film, as I'm trying to think the name they gave him in the film, Michael Lee Clark and James Sortor. James Sortor is Jimmy in the film.
Okay.
And Michael Lee Clark, they are victims of the torture that happens in the Algiers Motel, and they do not claim that they witnessed Melvin Dismukes beat people. They don't say we saw him beating somebody. They say he beat me.
Okay.
So they identify him as one of the people that brutalized them inside of the Algiers.
Right.
No one claims that he actually shot anyone, and neither do I.
Right.
But he participated in the brutality outside of the killing, but the brutality, including the beating of people inside of the Algiers. And the two people, James Sortor, Jimmy in the film, and Michael Lee Clark, they both attest that he participating in the beating of them.
Right.
And he's the first arrested based on their testimony. They complained to the police that they were beaten by this African-American security guard, and he's the first arrested. And he's in both trials. And he's tried right along with the officers. He does not testify against not one officer. So he doesn't say, well, this one, he's the one that shot this person. So he does not testify against any of the officers. But in the film, he's presented as a teetering between an innocent bystander and even a sometimes hero. And that's a problem when in real life we know for a fact, based on people who themselves were brutalized by him inside of the Algiers Motel, that he participated in the brutality.
Now, what led up to the police attack on the Algiers Motel was during the 1967 Detroit Rebellion.
That's
this
right.
is on July
25th, as it's turning into the 26th. That's right.
Turning into the 26th. And police say that they hear a gunshot or gunshots coming from the Algiers Motel, because we know that there were reports of snipers throughout the rebellion. So they're going to shoot at the hotel and storm the hotel.
That's right.
So talk about that, please.
So the National Guard calls the police. The National Guard are guarding the Great Lakes Mutual Life Insurance building on Woodward, which is the insurance company owned by an African-American, the Roxborough family. John Roxborough, a wealthy African-American, is the founder of the Great Lakes Mutual Life Insurance. But the National Guard are guarding places on Woodward, prominent businesses. They're guarding downtown. So there's no looting and fires in the downtown area, and really none on Woodward.
Okay.
And so, and the reason why is the Army is there, the National Guard is there guarding these areas.
Right.
And so the National Guard called the police because they hear some shooting in the area of the Algiers, or they claim they do. And they call the police and say, we've heard some shooting around the Algiers. The police call it in, and when the police call it in, they say, National Guard under heavy fire. So, of course, this raises the tension of the police, that raises their anxiety level, because they've been told now that the National Guard is under heavy fire.
Right.
Which the National Guard never claimed. But, of course, when the police begin to shoot up the building, along with the National Guard, and then they raid the 2 back doors of the annex building. Let me explain that.
Go ahead.
The Algiers Motel is a motel, a typical motel, built in kind of like a U shape. Next door to it was a big manor house that had become vacant. The Algiers Motel buys that manor house and calls it the annex building. And so that annex building had 6 kitchenette rooms along with some smaller rooms. So it was a big house that they have turned into part of the hotel. And so when the police raid the 2 back doors of the manor house, the annex building, they also run through the front door. So you have the police, both Detroit police and Michigan State police. You have the National Guard, and eventually you even have some Army troopers that come into the home during this raid.
Right.
While they're there, when they first enter the home, Carl Cooper is shot. 17-year-old Carl Cooper is shot in the initial raid. After the initial raid, they start bringing people out of the rooms. And it turns out there were 9 people in the annex building, one of whom is either dead or dying. Carl Cooper is either already dead or dying as they're bringing the people out of the rooms. So now you have 8 living people who are being brought out of the rooms.
Right.
7 black men and a couple of teenagers who are black males,
right.
and then 2 white females.
Right.
And so this is the group of people who will be tortured. Of course, 2 more will be killed. So it will be 3 killed in total, and the rest will be tortured, beaten, interrogated, and eventually forced to leave out, get out of the Algiers by the police. And then when the police leave, they try to cover as much of their tracks as possible. But of course, we find out what happened.
So at the premiere, you had Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, who's from Detroit, and as you said on your Facebook post, he talked about his Detroit street cred. He was on AM Joint this morning, Joanne Reed, MSNBC, talking about the film. And as you said on Facebook, Michael Eric Dyson talked about Catherine Bigelow, a white female, telling the story of African Americans, telling our story. Talk about that, please.
So he went right there. So, of course, that's on the minds of a number of people, I'm sure, in the audience is, yeah, this film is coming out. It's about Detroit. It's about 1967. Why is it a white woman doing this film?
Exactly.
So that's on the minds of a lot of people. And so he knows, and Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is not unintelligent, so he immediately goes straight there and say, and why is a white woman telling our story? And that's kind of how he broaches the subject. And then he goes on to tell the reason why it's important for a white woman with privilege, with white privilege, to stand up and tell the story of African Americans, because she's able to maneuver in circles that African American filmmakers would never be able to get in. And she's using that ability, that privilege, that power to tell a story that's unknown, unheard of, but that also needs to be told. So he defends her right to tell the story, and defends, it really goes above and beyond that, and basically says it's better in a way that it's her telling it, because she's able to tell it, and an African American wouldn't be able. He would be blocked, or she would be blocked from telling this gruesome story. So that's kind of how he deals with that, and you know, he gets some applause from that. And of course, my whole position is, if the story is a good story, it stands on its own merit. It doesn't need Michael Eric Dyson to defend her.
Right. Exactly.
I'll see the film. And after the film is over, if it's a great film, then Catherine Bigelow will get her props. And if it's a garbage film, Catherine Bigelow will meet my resistance. But I didn't need Michael Eric Dyson to really become her cheerleader and try to convince the black community that of all the reasons why we ought to be supporting Catherine Bigelow making this film.
Well, not only that, he makes it sound like Ava DuVernay and Selma doesn't exist. The movie about Dr. King and Bloody Sunday and the fight for the Voting Rights Act. You know, that's directed by an African American woman telling our story.
That's right.
You know, he makes it seem like Spike Lee and Malcolm X doesn't exist. You know, so Now, along with her using her white privilege, if he wants to take it there, isn't there a responsibility to historical accuracy?
So in these historical biopics, I really guess I have a low bar. I'm not expecting much in these historical films from Hollywood. So I know that they're going to do the Hollywood thing, and they're going to change some of the facts. They're going to change some of the characters. They're going to do some of the things. And sadly, this happens even when African American filmmakers make historical films.
And I have a problem when they do it also.
So this happens, and the films, for them to, I guess, in the filmmaking world, for them to have the Hollywood appeal, there's some facts that just have to be changed to make it more appealable for the mass audiences. And of course, as a historian, I have a problem with that.
Me too.
But I also expect it. So when I go into the film, I kind of know that this ain't going to do that. What I'm really kind of gauging is, does the strength of the film outweigh those historical inaccuracies? So do they do so much good by telling the story that it overwhelms that? And so I went into the film kind of with that view. I want to see if they're going to do that. Are they going to do so much? Is the film going to be done so well that I can overlook the fact that they're going to change some names, they're going to change some events, but the film is still going to be well done. So that's what I was looking for when I was looking at the film.
And what did this movie reveal to you?
Okay, so it did not do that. It did not meet what I was looking for, and primarily it's because of two major problems.
Go ahead.
Or maybe three.
Okay.
So the first major problem is...
And we have a couple minutes before the break. So
okay, so the first major problem is that, of course, they changed names and they changed those things.
Right.
But they changed the central position of the main character. So Melvin Dismukes, who is a real person, he uses his real name in the film. John Boyega is the actor that plays that part, is switched from being one of the villains in real life, which is what he was, into being an almost hero in the film. So it's okay to change his name. It's okay to maybe change up some of the things he actually said, but to change him from being a villain to a hero was
that's a central narrative.
That's the central part that I could not accept. I could not accept that.
Right.
So that was a problem. And then the second problem is that there is no black agency in the film. There's no black activism. Now, number one, the '67 rebellion is really a case in point of activism and agency.
Right.
People are rebelling because of the conditions of racism and white supremacy in the city of Detroit.
Exactly.
But it's not told that way. The film is told where African Americans are two things: they're criminals and they're victims. That's it.
And this is the problem that I have when white people try to tell our stories. This is the problem, and this is why we have to be very clear. See, power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. And this is the problem I have when Europeans try to tell our stories, because if you go back and look at Hurricane Katrina, when you had white people who were looting food so they could survive, they found the food. When it was African Americans who were looting for food so they can survive, oh, they're looting. And why are they looting? Oh, they're criminals. Okay, so you have this narrative that's told. We're coming up on a break. We'll be back in a few minutes. You listen to the African History Network show on 910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. My guest is Jamon Jordan, historian. We're talking about the movie Detroit, about the killing 1967 at the Algiers Motel. I'm Michael Imhotep. 910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. We'll be back in a few minutes.
9:10 AM.
All right, guys, stand by. We'll be back in a few minutes. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for my online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We have a new section of the course starting up Friday. Session number 1 starts this Friday, August 11th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tune in from around the world. All the sessions are recorded. If you miss anything, you can go back and watch it over and over again. It's a 12-hour, 6-week online course. It's only $40. And we posted the link there so you can register for that. And if you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. There's a link that connects you to the other courses I teach, and we also have a bundle pack where you can. A course bundle pack is only $80 for all 4 of my courses. Okay, online courses. Course bundle pack $80 at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. All right, stand by. We'll be back in a few minutes. 10 AM, the Superstation, the voice of Detroit. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. You listen to the African History Network show. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can register for the online course that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We also have a recommended reading list of books there. It connects you to our social media platforms. All of my DVD lectures are there as well, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, we're speaking with Jamon Jordan, historian and educator. We're talking about the 1967 Detroit Rebellion, but specifically the Algiers Motel killings that took place July 26, 1967. This is what the movie Detroit is about, that debuted Friday, August 4th, which is about those killings. Jamon went to the premiere at the Fox Theater here in Detroit a couple weeks ago. I was actually invited, and I was going to go. I was offered tickets, but I was tied up, couldn't get away from work, and also really didn't want to see it. So I didn't, and I already told you that. I didn't want to see it. You know, I was just going, man, because I was offered, and I respect the person that offered me tickets, but I was tied up and couldn't get away. So I had to watch when it comes out on DVD. And something like that, it'll take me like 3 days or 4 days to actually get through and watch it. I have to watch it in 20-minute increments. You know, really, man, tell you the truth, you don't want me at the theater watching that with white people around me. You don't want me. You really don't want me in there, man. I'm just keeping it real with you. All right, you know, because I mean, there's a lot to handle. Yes. Especially in the environment where people are taking selfies and they think this is some type of red carpet. So, I mean, it's some type of Hollywood something, man. This is something tragic. Okay, so in the movie, you talked about how the activism leading up to the rebellion is not talked about. We know that the Shrine of the Black Madonna is active. We know that a few weeks before the rebellion breaks out, July 23rd, we know Malcolm X is here in Detroit giving a speech as well. Is that correct?
A couple of years. Before 67.
Yeah, a couple of years before. In 65. Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. Yeah, 65, because he assassinated February 21st, 1965. So a couple of years before that, Malcolm X is here. We know Malcolm X had a big following here in Detroit as well. Also, you have so you have a lot of activism here in Detroit. Now, Congressman John Conyers, the dean of the Congress, he's portrayed in the movie by Laz Alonso.
Yes.
So talk about John Conyers' role, because you said this is like the only real depiction of African American agency or activism.
Right. So, you're missing the African American agency and activism, which the 67 Rebellion was an act in that, but it's not presented that way in the film. You're missing all of the backstory, so you're missing the activism that led up to 67, including activists who were in that community. Because Reverend Albert Clegg, his church is basically around the corner from 12th and Claremont. In fact, the first church he pastors at in Detroit is right next door to where the 67 Rebellion breaks out at. St. Mark's Presbyterian sits on the corner of 12th and Atkinson. Right. And, of course, Atkinson is 1 block north of Claremont. So he's an activist in that neighborhood. You have, of course, the Henry brothers, who would become the founders of the Republic of New Africa in 1968. But they're activists. They're part of the group on advanced leadership goal, part of the Freedom Now Party. James and Grace E. Boggs are activists. Yes. Mwalimu Ed Vaughn is an activist. In fact, you just recently had, 3 weeks prior to the 67 Rebellion, you had the Forum 67, which was also known as the second annual Black Arts Conference. Yeah, the Black Arts Conference. Ed Vaughn at the Vaughn's bookstore,
who ran for mayor,
bookstore, and he ran for mayor. The Shrine of Black Madonna. That's where most of that activism is happening. H. Rap Brown gives a speech there and talks about a rebellion in the city of Detroit. So you have all that activism. That's missing in the film, of course. And when you get to
the killings at the Algiers Motel and the torture, it is the activist community in the city of Detroit, led by Dan Aldridge,
Reverend
Lonnie Peak.
Reverend Dan Aldridge, yes.
And V. Lonnie Peak, both here in the city of Detroit, who joined with Mwalimu Ed Vaughn, Reverend Albert Clegg, the Henry brothers, Ken Cockrell, Saul Plofkin, Frank Joyce, Rosa Parks.
Right.
All of them become a part, George Crockett, all of them become a part of the People's Tribunal.
Right.
Because they realize that the authorities aren't going to give us justice.
Right.
And they organized their own tribunal held at the Shrine of the Black Madonna, which was Central United Church of Christ at that point. But the Shrine of the Black Madonna, inside the church, about 2,000 people are inside of the church. But then you got outside on Linwood from Hogarth, where the Shrine of Black Madonna sits on the corner of Linwood and Hogarth, all the way down to Philadelphia, where New Bethel is. You got people all lined up on the street.
Right. And now this was a people's court.
This was a people's court
that they set up. Right.
And 3 people who were tortured testified at that. James Sortor, Michael Lee Clark, and one more of the people that was there. They testified what happened to them.
Right.
And they called witnesses, and of course the jury. Rosa Parks is on that jury.
Yes.
John Oliver Killens, the African American author and novelist, he's on that jury. Frank Joyce, the radical white activist, he's on that jury, and he also sat next to me at the premiere.
Okay.
And he also did a review of the film that's on alternate.org that I think people ought to read. And of course, his review is really pointing towards white people who go see this film and have their own opinions. His review is really a message to them.
Okay.
And so you have these people who are activists, and they organize, and their activism, their agency they're not just accepting what the system has done to these 3 black teenagers. They're going to do something about it.
Right.
The whole story is missing from the film.
Absolutely.
There's no mentioning of the tribunal. There's no mentioning of Dan Aldridge, V. Lonnie Peak, Reverend Albert Clegg Jr., the Michigan Chronicle, which covered all of the proceedings of the tribunal. The Detroit Free Press and Detroit News cover it too. Right. But although they cover it, they don't print all of the information about it.
So the Michigan Chronicle, for those listening around the country, is an African American owned newspaper.
That's right.
And when atrocities like this happen, you're going to have African American newspapers across the country that report on what's going on across the country also. That's right. Which is very important. That's okay. Right. And what's interesting, we're going to go to the phone lines in just a minute, so we're going to Tracy line 1 in just a second here. What's interesting now is that the Shrine of the Black Madonna has endorsed the white mayor, Mike Duggan.
So of course, the Shrine of the Black Madonna would probably say that they do not endorse mayors.
Yeah.
But the Black Slate, which is the political arm that was founded by, of course, Reverend Albert Clegg Jr. and some other members of the Shrine of the Black Madonna, founded the Black Slate. Right. The Black Slate, which has been an influential political organization in the city of Detroit, particularly around supporting candidates, has endorsed Mike Duggan for mayor. I'm going to stay out of that.
Yeah, I'm going to stay out of that one too, man. All right, let's go to line 1. Let's go to Tracy. Hey, Tracy, thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show.
Thank you for taking my call. Thank you for the information that you're providing this evening.
Yes.
When you spoke about Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, whom I do respect, I was reminded, it seemed like he rehashed an article he wrote called Yes, You Can, about Hillary Clinton and how her white privilege will make her a better president because she would be able to speak more freely on issues of race than Obama ever could. And that was in the New Republic. So it seems like he just substituted Catherine Bigelow's name for what he had written in the New Republic for Hillary Clinton. Also, I lived on Hazelwood off of 12th Street.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Jordan, across your studies, did you come across anything regarding the 12th Street Civic Association and or Tri-Stone Baptist Church?
All right.
Did they play a role? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you said that. So let me back up a little. The club that was raided on 9125 12th Street was the United Community League for Civic Action. And of course, it was a political organization. It wasn't just an illegal after-hours club like they're always presented. So it's always presented as this illegal after-hours bar, blind pig. Everybody says it was a raid on a blind pig. People miss the fact that a political organization was being invaded by the Detroit Police Department on that night. So let's make that clear. And there were a number of political organizations in that area, including the 12th Street Civic Association. And Tri-Stone Baptist Church plays a vital role in that neighborhood. They were, of course, one of the anchor institutions on 12th Street, number one. But number two, they are also one of the areas that provides food. As the stores are destroyed and people can't get food, it is places like Tri-Stone is one of them. Northwestern High School is another, where people are able to go and get food and get the things that are necessary to make it through the next couple of weeks, because all of the stores are now gone. All of the food, the things you need to take care of. You got children, you need milk, you need those kinds of things. Tri-Stone plays a central role in making sure that people in that community get those things. So Tri-Stone it was an institution at that time and significant in that neighborhood, and played a role in helping people be able to deal with what they lost after the '67 rebellion.
All right, let's go to Latanya, line 2. Latanya, thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
Thank you for taking my call. Hey, listen, my name's not really Latanya. I said it because I had a white name and they hung up on me. Listen.
Oh, how you pronounce your name? How you pronounce your name?
I'm actually Tracy, and I'm actually from Detroit.
Oh, okay.
I moved away like 20 years ago, but my heart is in Detroit. And
okay.
No, I just saw the movie, and it's sickening, and I can't believe, I didn't know the full history, and I'm horrified the way people have been treated. And at the time, I live, in Cass and Peterborough, and I,
in the Cass Corridor, Cass Corridor area.
Yeah, I was in Cass Corridor back in the day, and working 3 jobs to pay for tuition at Wayne State. And,
right.
It breaks my heart to see the way people are treated, and
sure.
It's horrible. And but I got out. You know what? I was in Detroit, and my heart, like for years and years, I tried to help Detroit and make it better. And I don't give a crap about your race or religion or appearances. I mean, there's all kinds of discrimination out there. I mean, I can't tell you. I know the racism is terrible, and
sure.
we have to get over that, and it has to end. But it's beyond race. It's religion. It's you're fat, you're skinny. I mean, there's all kinds of isms out there, right? Every time, and we have to fight it and get over it, and
sure.
Everyone's got to fight hard to be done with that in our world. But I moved back, and I was trying to, my village died, and I was trying to work with him on the city, and I moved back at Jefferson and I-75. I was in the Palms building, and I went and lived there, and I was trying to get to my job, and you know what? Nobody was it was the winter, and I was trying to get to work, and nobody plowed the streets because the city had no money, and
what year was this? What year was this?
This was like 97, 96, 97.
Okay.
I remember that. That was
during
a big
Archer.
issue. Yeah, that was a big issue.
That was during
Archer was
Mayor Archer. Yeah. Go ahead, because we only got about 30 seconds left. Go ahead.
I myself over a dumpster to get trash to put under my tire so I could get to work, to get traction so I could get out of my parking lot.
Sure.
And we just have to make it a better place for all of us, and we all need to work together and just stop fighting and make it a good place. And I feel so bad for what people did to other people, and I just want to say I'm sorry on behalf of my race. Okay.
All right. Now, what's your name again? Your first name?
I'm Tracy.
Tracy.
I'm Tracy.
Okay. All right, Tracy. Thanks for calling, okay? Thanks for calling. And I just want to make a quick distinction. We're going to go to Super Racide. I'm going to go to make a quick distinction. And Super Racide, we're going to have about a minute for you. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race coming out of white supremacy, coming out of the ideology of white supremacy, okay? racism, discrimination is something different. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to opportunity, education, and they use that to marginalize, subordinate, do harm to another race of people. Super Rod C, they go ahead, man. We got about 60 seconds. Thanks for holding.
Hey, good evening.
Yeah, go ahead. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good. Two scenarios. First, this is the Detroit riot and the hotel situation. I'm going to tie this in with Kwame Kilpatrick, but let's go to the Detroit hotel situation, the riots and the kids, that were killed. We need more, of course, white people to speak out, not just feel bad about it, but go to your police stations, take it to your police stations, protest with other African Americans, and speak out, stand up, and do what's right, and don't just feel bad about it. Actually take it to the police, to the police station and your chiefs. So hopefully this will get more white people standing along with African Americans and Latinos and things of that nature
right.
to make a difference. And of course, we need more African Americans to be police officers and Hispanics. Now, to tie this in with Kwame Kilpatrick, they cannot be quiet about this. We have to do surveys in the downtown area to enlighten white people. How you feel about Kwame Kilpatrick, and if they're feeling the wrong way, we have to be able to enlighten them and let them know, you know what, if you're not giving this man justice, then you have to be debated, and we have to bring it to you. So therefore, you have to speak out and say, you know what happened to Kwame Kilpatrick was not right.
Right.
We're not going to stand for it, and hopefully you won't stand for it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling. Angeline, last call of the night. Angeline, you got 60 seconds. Thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show.
Thank you, Hotep. I have some questions, and just to
go ahead with one question.
Be short on time.
Go ahead with one question.
One question is, this film is leaving a false, deliberate, emotional imprint on the people who are looking at this.
Right.
And I want to know why was there no Q&A after this, and others who could have had the chance to challenge that. And I think it's wrong. And what are those prostitutes, quote unquote prostitutes?
Hello.
When the trial happened, were they in the courtroom to testify? I don't believe any of this. I think it's a charade. I think it's poison. I think it's distracting.
Let's let Jamon respond. Let's let Jamon respond. Okay, Angeline. All right, thanks for calling. Let's let Jamon respond. Go ahead and respond. So tie into that your presentation you're doing at the African World Festival, please.
All right. So Julie Heisel is still living, and she and both Julie Heisel and Karen Malloy, we really under threat of the police, did testify against the officers who brutalized them and, of course, killed 3 people that night.
So were these the 2 white girls?
The 2 white girls.
Okay.
And it's actually their testimony that discusses the starter pistol. I mean, that comes out of their testimony. So they did testify, and one of them is still living. So, but I really feel your statement about why wasn't there any Q&A?
Right, exactly.
So that they could be challenged. Right. Now, that's a good. I love that statement you made because a lot of the issues that some of us have with the film could have been addressed directly to the director, the screenwriter, the producers, and all of those people. Exactly. And it could have been dealt with right then and there, but they cut that. So there was no Q&A at the end of the film. It was a red carpet event, and then they bust people in and bust them out of there.
Right. Talk about, we got 30 seconds. Yes. Talk about your presentation at the African World Festival.
So at the African World Festival this year on August 18th, 19th, and 20th, Black Scroll Network History and Tours. I'm the tour leader for them. I will be leading a number of history tours in and around the African World Festival area at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Those tours will include the Say It Loud Art, History, and Rebellion exhibit at the Charles H. Wright Museum. So I'll be leading a tour of that exhibit, which deals with the 1967 rebellion.
How do they get in contact with you to find out more about the dates and everything?
Please contact me at Black Scroll Network. Scroll is SCROLL. Black Scroll Network at gmail.com. blackscrollnetwork@gmail.com. You can also contact me on the Facebook page, Black Scroll Network History and Tours on Facebook.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Register for my online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Session number 1 starts this Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the sessions are recorded. If you miss any of it, you can go back and watch it over and over again. View it from around the world. We'll be back next Sunday. Also this week, follow me on Facebook, the African History Network, on YouTube, Michael Imhotep, because I'll be doing a broadcast dealing with some of the topics we did not get to, and I'll be doing a broadcast dealing with how to have a successful economic boycott against the NFL. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Stay tuned for Fatima and Between the Lines. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.